He doesn't have to get A class.
Yes, so we are continuing on. Oh, if they close the door of the plane, it's different. We are continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, Siman, the end of Siman, Samech Vav, in Seif Yud, says Maran Shulchan Aruch, Kol mi shelo amar emet v'yatziv shacharit ve'emet ve'emuna arvit lo yatsa yedei chovat hamitzvah. If you didn't say emet v'yatziv in the morning and emet ve'emuna and arvit lo yatsa yedei chovat hamitzvah. He has not been fulfilling the mitzvah, the chiyuv that he has had, ketikna, the way it should have been done. So therefore, you have to say it. Now, it doesn't say that you're not yotze, your shema or your tefillah. You're going to see that in Chafetz Chaim, in Mishna Berurah. But the Rama adds, Mishu anus v'dachuk ve'en lo penai litpalel miyad achar kriyat shema. Imagine if a person is anus, doesn't have time to say the bracha after kriyat shema. Yikra kriyat shema ad emet. You should daven kriyat shema, say emet. V'yamtin lomar sha'ar habracha ad she'itpalel she'az yomar v'yatziv. And then wait until you have more time, and then you'll say v'yatziv v'nachon, and you daven this way. Kadesh yismoch geula litfilah. You'll say Gal Yisrael right before you start your Shemona Esrei. So this is back to our airplane question. A person that realizes that the boarding is happening and he is behind, so he should say Shema, don't rush, Shema, and then he could go inside and say the bracha of Emet Yatziv and connect that, attach that to the tefillah of Shemona Esrei instead of having to skip it or say God Yisrael and then wait for Shemona Esrei. That would be, of course, not a proper conduct. It's best for him to wait, to do it afterwards with Shemona Esrei together. This way, he will have Smichat Geula Litfilah. He will be saying the Bracha Emet Yatziv together with Shemona Esrei, which would be the proper way, says the Rama. Says the Chafetz Chaim over here in Seif Katan Nun Gimal, Ketikuna, aval lo shelo yatsa kede klal yede kriyat shema. He is yotze kriyat shema. He says Shema properly. It's just that he did not do it ketikna. It's not a halachically proper way of doing it because kaimalan brachot en ma'akvot de kriyat shema. Brachot, we mentioned this several times, a separate entity than kriyat shema, so it doesn't invalidate your saying of Shema, but at the same time, it's not karaui. Einenu karaui. V'achzor al kol panim le'omra achar tefillah, im lo amara kodem tefillah. You should say it after tefillah if you didn't say it before tefillah, as we mentioned before. And best is that you say Shema with it as well afterwards. So, for instance, a person that stopped in the middle of Bracha V'Emet V'Yatziv, the Kaf HaChaim writes this, and Chacham Obadia as well. It's an example that we gave before. He got defocused. He is in the middle of Emet V'Yatziv, and he sees people get up to daven, and he gets up and starts davening with them without finishing Gal Yisrael, without finishing Emet V'Yatziv. And then afterwards says, "Oh gee, I forgot." What do? Says the Kaf HaChaim, you go back after tefillah, and you go to Shema. You say Shema again, the Chatchila, even though you could just start from the Yatziv. But best is like this. Chafetz Chaim said, better to go back Ot Pa'am to read Shema, like Maran Chida writes in Birkei Yosef as well. And then you say the bracha v'emet v'yatziv with it up until Baruch Atah Hashem Gal Yisrael, and then you stop. That's what the Kaf HaChaim says. That's what Chacham Obadia says as well, including Gal Yisrael, of course, because he never said Gal Yisrael. So that's the whole problem. He was in the middle of the bracha v'emet v'yatziv. He got disillusioned. He got confused, and he got up to daven with people when they got up. without finishing the bracha b'mediyatziv. No, in the case of airplane, I mean, you know that you have to be boarding and they're going to close the doors of the airplane. So you finish Shema, pause right there, go inside the plane and finish up, start, finish, and attach Gal Yisrael to Hashem's Fatah. No, you don't have to say Shema because he didn't mess up. Over here, what happened is you skipped Ebed V'Yatziv. So lechatchila, when you go back, you want to say it together because you have to say Ebed V'Yatziv. You didn't say it, so you want to say it lechatchila attached with Shema together. Okay.
What if forget to say Gal Yisrael before stepping back, waited for the say Gal Yisrael, and then you realize that you're in Akka that you didn't say Gal Yisrael steps forward.
Well, you never said Baruch Atah Hashem Gal Yisrael.
Correct.
Same thing. Yep. So you have to go back and say the bracha v'yatziv because you never said that bracha.
No,
so once you're at it, says the Kaf HaChaim, says Chacham Obadia, seems to be from the Birkei Yosef of Maran Chida the same way that once you're at it, you should say the Shema together with it as well, but you don't have to. Okay. So the Yerushalmi says, the Tur brings the Yerushalmi that when you say Emet V'Yatziv, the bracha Emet V'Yatziv has to have the concept of Yetziat Mitzrayim in it, right? It has to have concept of Yetziat Mitzrayim in it, and he has to have also the Malchut of Hashem, and he has to have Kriyat Yam Suf. Those three items have to be mentioned in the bracha Emet V'Yatziv, and if you pay attention, we have all three of them in the bracha Emet V'Yatziv, and the Rashba in the beginning of Masechet Brachot, in Daf Yud Aleph, the Rashba seems to say that this is the Ikuva, that even B'di'evet, if you didn't say it, is bad news. Those are the three main components of the Bracha V'Emet V'Yatziv. Because you end up with Ga'al Yisrael, the components of the Geula have to be all mentioned over there. The components of Geula, of course, is the Yetziat Mitzrayim. Hashem actually physically took us out of Mitzrayim. The Malchut of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that was manifested in that, and the second part of Yetziat Mitzrayim was Ma'avar Hayam, what Kriyat Yam Suf. That's why it's Shvi Shel Pesach. Pesach, which is Yetziat Mitzrayim, has two parts. There's the coming out of Mitzrayim, and then there is passing through the sea, and through all of that, Malchut of Hashem was manifested. So those three, says the Rashba, are Leikuva. That even by the Eved, you're not Yotze without it. And again, the Mishna Berurah here brings a challenge to this view of the Rashba, and he answers it. You take a look at it for yourself. It's a little bit more of an in-depth endeavor. And on the comment of the Ramah, that somebody that doesn't have enough time, he should read Shema. The Ramah said a person should say, if you don't have time, you should say the rest of the bracha together with Shemona Esrei and pause after Shema. Says the Mishna Berurah that Sefer Nar Shalom Katav the Mikol Makom Din Arama Hu Emet, that the halacha is true, even though that we learned in the halacha before that making a hefsek, right? Who made it mutar for you because you're in a rush, right? To stop between Shema and the bracha Emet V'Yatziv. We mentioned that that's not something that we could do. So it seems like the Mishna Berurah says, Mishe'en lo penai, yikra kriyat Shema levada v'lo brachot. You should say Shema without bracha. You don't want to skip Shema, don't skip Shema. The time of Shema is passing, fine. Just say Shema alone. No brachot of Shema even before Shema. And then daven when you have proper time, daven properly. Start from Baruch Sha'amar and go all the way, davening everything. Who was matir that you should daven a broken tefillah and pause in between Shema and Bracha Be'emet V'Yatziv. But L'maaseh, the Nahal Shalom writes that the halacha of the Rama is true. Echa shekara kriyat Shema ki haya savur sheyuchal ligmor kol hatefillah, because he thought that a person sometimes thinks that he could finish the tefillah, right? Like the case of the airplane that we mentioned. You're there, you think boarding is going to be 20 minutes before, and then all of a sudden you realize that this fancy airline you booked your ticket with is going to be 40 minutes before, which that happens, and every airline has their own things. And you didn't realize that you don't have time, and all of a sudden, you find yourself in this pickle that you started because Kriyat Shema, and you don't have really time. So, in that case, as Nahal Shalom, of course, the din of the Rama is correct, and you go back to davening in the way that we mentioned. Let's start Siman Samech Zayin. By the way, we mentioned before that if a person switches, and this happens, unfortunately, you start right? And sometimes you make a mistake. Instead of saying Emet V'Yatziv, you say Emet V'Emunah. You daven Arvit instead of Shacharit, or vice versa. Unfortunately, our brains are used to it, and you could make that mistake. If a person made that mistake and he's not ended the bracha yet, the Mishna Berurah over here says that if you didn't finish the bracha, say Baruch Atah Hashem, you should go back to the beginning of the bracha and properly say it. If you already said Baruch Atah Hashem, then you just end the bracha properly, right? And you don't have to go back to the beginning. Now, the Kaf HaChaim says in that only in Arvit you could be making. In Arvit, you made a mistake, then you could be making. But in Shacharit, if you have not started the Tefillah of Shemona Esrei, even though that you said the bracha, you have to go back and say the bracha of Emet V'Yatziv, he says, because according to Ari Kadosh, according to Arizal, Al Pi Kabbalah, in the morning, a person must say before Tefillah of Shemona Esrei, you have to say the bracha of Emet V'Yatziv only. That's a specific, that specific bracha, those specific words have to be said before the Shemona Esrei, and therefore, even if you said Baruch Atah Hashem, you should say Lamedeni Chokecha, which is Baruch Atah Adonai Lamedeni Chokecha is a pasuk. So you say that, you go back now to the bracha of Emet V'Yatziv, and you go from there until Gal Israel, and then you start your Shemona Esrei. Now, next Siman, we can start just a little bit of it to have started. Bezrat Hashem. It's a Siman basically talking about Safek im Kara Kriyat Shema. What happens if you don't remember if you said Shema? Right? Don't remember if you said Shema or not. Safek im Kara Kriyat Shema Hozer veKore umevarech lefaneha. Imagine you have, for whatever reason, this could happen sometimes. A person davened a very early Arvit, and then he wants to say Arvit again, the Shema rather again, after proper time of nightfall, and he doesn't remember if he said it or not. He remembered to say it, but then he doesn't remember if he said it or not, actually. So Safek im Kara Kriyat Shema, Hozer veKore umevarech lefaneha. If you don't remember, you have to go back and say Shema again. Now, if you don't remember, if you davened Arvit altogether, and hence you have a Safek whether or not you said Shema, so not only you will go back to Shema, but you also will say the brachot of Kriyat Shema beforehand, says Maran Shulchan Aruch. Now, in other mitzvot d'oraita, that you're mechuyav to do it from Safek, we mentioned before in halachot of tzitzit, in Siman Yud Zayin, that if a person is a tumtum is a person that you don't know if he's a woman or he's a man, right? That's got to be hayav b'tzitzit. When he wears the 4 garment, he has to put tzitzit on it, right? And in Yoredai and Alachot of Milah in Siman Resh Samech Hey, if you have an androgynos that has an ever zachar, but I don't know if he is considered, he has the male genitalia, but he doesn't have necessarily the status of a male gender in halacha, the androgynous. So because of that safek, he will get a brit. And all of these halachot, any situation of this nature, they have safek on the oraita, you say, but you don't say bracha in the mitzvah. And then brit milah of androgynous, you don't make a bracha on the milah. In a tzitzit that the tumtum wears, you don't say letatev b'sisi, don't make bracha on it, because all the brachot are the rabbanan. So the mitzvah is the oraita, safek the oraita la chumrah. The bracha is the rabbanan, safek the rabbanan, the kula, right? So it says the Mishna Berurah. Now, why does the Shulchan Aruch say over here that you have to say bracha? Right? It says the Mishna Berurah, ach yesh poskim shemechalekin b'necha she'asafek hu im mechuyav klal b'mitzvah k'kol ההיא שכתבנו, ובין אחד שמחויב אלא שאינו יודע אם עשה המצווה, דאז צריך לברך עליה גם כן. So if the safek is whether or not you're מחויב to do this mitzvah, then the bracha is, sure the rabbanai is safek brachot lakin. But if because you don't even know if this hue of the mitzvah, does the tumtum have to wear? Well, if it's a woman, no. Androgynous, does he need brit milah? Well, we don't know if he needs. Maybe he doesn't need it altogether. But in a case like this, that you for sure are hayav to say Shema. It's not a safek if you are hayav. You are for sure 100% hayav. The only question is, did I say it or did I not say it? You know what the prime example of this is in daily life? I don't come across androgynuses and tumtums all the time, but you do come across this question. If you eat a kabetzav bread, then you have to say, if you didn't eat enough, then you're not hayav. So you could have 2 different safeks. Sometimes a person has safek, he says, did I eat enough bread? I don't know if I had enough bread. Sometimes a person says, well, I had enough bread, for sure. I ate the portion of Og Melech HaBashan, right? But I don't know if I benched. This especially happens on Purim, right? I say, I benched or not benched. He's a little intoxicated, and so on. I don't remember if I benched or not. But I for sure ate enough to bench. What's the halacha? So if you have safek whether or not you ate, you ate enough, then you'll say safek brachot lakel. Because you have no hazakah over here, right? So you don't say. This is much more complicated than this little talk, but that's the halacha that comes up. If you for sure know that you ate it, chazkat for you for sure became hayav, you just don't remember if I said it or I not. Well, I for sure was hayav. Says the Mishna Berurah, איך שהספק הוא אם מחויב כלל במצווה, כמו נגיד שכתבנו, ובעיניך שמחויב, אלא שאינו יודע אם עשה המצווה, אז צריך לברך עליה, גם כן, in that case you have to say, the ברכה as well. Now, Rab Chaim ben Meneshti, Rab Chaim ben Israel ben Meneshti, Rav Chaviv, the author of Knesset Gdolah, he writes in our sugya, and he explains this, he writes the same thing as this, and he explains this chiluk that you have, this differentiation between these 2 cases, that when somebody is vadai mechuyav, for sure is chayav to do the mitzvah, but he doesn't know if he did the mitzvah, then he has the chiyuv was chav, the obligation rested upon him, for sure. You just have a safek. So the safek is not motzi midei vadai. Your doubt of whether or not you did it is not going to take you out of the for sure hezkat chiyuv. You have a hezkat hazakav chiyuv. You for sure became chayav. Therefore, that cheskat chiyuv wins, and you have to say the bracha. But somebody that the etzem chiyuv, the very fact of him being obligated, is under question. You don't have cheskat chiyuv. Who says you're hayav altogether? You don't even know if you're hayav. So you have safek if you're hayav. You have safek if you said it. So don't say it anymore. You don't need to. Because you didn't have this cheskat chiyuv from the beginning, you don't say the bracha misafek, because that goes back to the general rule of safek brachot, lakin. And that's the basic differentiation, even though that this is much deeper than just the little talk that we have here. But according to this comes out, that if you have lulav, shofar, the first day of Rosh Hashanah, first day of Sukkot, right? Now, you don't remember if you, this is mesupak, if you did the mitzvah or not, right? Then you have to do it with bracha, because you're for sure hayav. You just don't remember if you did it. But the hayuv is there. And the Pri Megadim writes, in the name of Rashbam, and also Magen Avraham in the name of Rivash, if they brought lulav or shofar for you, ben hashmashot, the first day of Rosh Hashanah, but it was the holy pastor, it is Shkia, after Shkia. First day of Sukkot passed, Shkia has already happened. Ben hashmashot, they bring you a set of lulav and a cloak. Then they say that you do it in that case without bracha. Sevira lohu. Wait a second. והביאו לו שופר או לולב ביום ראשון בין השמשות לכולי עלמא נוטל בלי ברכה. You take it, but you don't say bracha. Why? Because again, in this case, the safek is if you're hayav in mitzvah. The mitzvah, the oraita is to say it the first day. Is it the first day? No, the safek. Safek yom, safek laila. If it's laila, it's no longer yom rishon. Then you're not hayav. If it's not laila, if it's day, then you're still hayav. So that goes back to the essential thing that we said. When you have safek, whether or not you're hayav, because here safek is whether or not it's the first day, then you do it without that. Why is it different?
It's not written for mitzvah. Remember before that the prophet is not like
correct, but it's instantly to be said with Shema together. That's correct. Again, Chavadia writes the same thing over here. In Harvadia has a Tshuva in Yabia Omer in Chenek Tet, that discusses this in Siman Pei Aleph, and he basically says the same thing as the Chafetz Chaim, but he adds that if they bring lulav or etrog for you, lulav etrog or shofar for you, when we consider ben hashmashot, right? Which means from Shkiyat HaChama until Shitat Geonim, basically would be in the equinoxes in Eretz Yisrael would be 13.5 minutes. Different places would be different, right? Different seasons would be different. But in equinoxes in Eretz Yisrael would be 13.5 minutes. That's the ben hashmashot that we consider to be ben hashmashot, safek yom, safek laila. Says Chacham Obadiah, there are many sfekot in this, because maybe halacha is like Rabbeinu Tam. Maran Pascha is like Rabbeinu Tam. The Shkia Shnia, that means until 58.5 minutes after after Shkia, the we call Shkia, we call sunset, it's still for sure day, but Dayum, right? Maybe halacha is like him, or maybe halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, that there's one rega of Seder Kochavim, and that's the Ben Hashemashut really. But before that is Yom. So even though that one could say in Safek Sfekad, it's Safek Mishem Echad, Chacham basically has an answer to this Safek Mishem Echad. Again, not trying to not make things more complicated than need to be, and therefore he adds several different Sfekot to it, and he says that in this case you may even have a bracha, because there is a safek that of those poskim who hold that on a mitzvah mideoraita you say a bracha even b'makom safek. So Harvadia has this tangent that he takes legabe bracha on a mitzvah deoraita. Take a look at the Omer in Chedek Tet in Orach Chaim, Siman Pe Aleph, that discusses this halacha at length, and Bezrat Hashem, we will continue this in the days to come.